can somebody access this particular willpower that we have? And after you finish, Trip, I get yours.
Absolutely. Well, I'm trying to make it short and sweet, but definitely directing to the point. One of my main things that I found on my journey, on my mission, is going inward. As you called out,
yes, sir.
You paid homage, you gave respect to those brothers and sisters that are in the now, and I heard you say about those that are not known or basically not in this place physically known. Our ancestors.
Yes. Yes, sir.
And a lot of knowing who you are goes into knowing who your ancestors are and were. You understand? Understanding the different value systems, the cultures, and the traditions. Because I will say, as it relates to willpower, being at this place in the European culture, it is a place that encourages the lack of willpower, right? I can say that. I'm pretty sure everybody would agree. It supports the lack of willpower because it helps to fill the jails, the prison system. It helps to make brainless customers, consumers, right? So the importance of exercising your willpower, from what I found again, does lie inside going back to those African traditional systems, which a lot of times is not all about materialism, you understand, or European materialism, placing values on mundane worldly things, going back inward to yourself, seeing what it is that makes us as beings go, looking at some of the fundamental principles, some of the key elements. You understand? As I told somebody, I was having a conversation with someone. Of course, we know our physical ancestors, but what about our kinship to water, to the force of water? What about our kinship to the force of air? You understand? What about our kinship to the force of divine order? You understand? Whether people call it gravity or everything that holds us in place. You understand? So those things are very relative to our experience in the now, and we need not forget those things in order to establish that will. And in order to establish that will in the now to help liberate who we are, to help free us, because I think we all can, again, agree that we are at a place where we are. Some people would say, well, hey, we're not slaves, but I'm one that definitely says we are still in slavery, right? Because it's never changed, right? The same person that held the whip on us 100 years or more ago, they've only transitioned the whip, and now it's the gun. You see the police kneeling on our necks, the George Floyd situation. You hear about them breaking into our place where we stay. The Breonna Taylor, we can't even sleep inside our home without being killed, right? So what we see is the lack of value in our African, in our black life. So it is a time, rather not than to be singing songs about, excuse me for saying, and I quote, wet ass pussy, right? That's what that's a song that all of our people are singing. We need to turn it around and start singing songs of praises to our ancestors, praises to our traditional systems that held us intact, because a lot of our people don't know anything about that. So going back historically, looking at what our ancestors, what our people from way back when did in order to sustain civilizations for thousands of years, I think that's due us, so we can start implementing some of those processes, so we can start from the ground level, maintaining ourselves as individuals, knowing how to eat. You understand? Being punctual with our words, being punctual, knowing how to pay attention to the right things. Because, again, this European have us all over the place, watching all kind of movies, arguing over who's going to win the Super Bowl. And as soon as we end in that discussion, we're arguing over who's going to win the NBA Finals, right? So I think it is very important for us to kind of diminish the level of education that the European has put in us, or as my brother Tyre RBG says, cut the devil's head off, right? And the devil within us. You understand?
Yeah.
Cut the devil's head off so we can start to allow that God to grow within us, so we can become that God, tapping into the African will. You understand? Tapping in, because we don't. People can talk junk about our African ancestors, but we don't. There are no depictions of African ancestors mistreating a group of people in the way that we see under the European. You understand? So what we have there is more nobility. We have more respect for nature in general. And I think going back to those things, those divine things, are very important for us to kind of set the tone for our path.
Yes, sir. No doubt. Trippy, you want to add on to that there, brother?
Yeah, I think that's very true because, like, I always say that energy follows thought, and nowadays, without that kind of knowledge, though, that ancestral knowledge, they're not gonna actually be in tune with the different techniques that they did to turn within, to answer to the master within themselves and stuff like that. Just like Lemuria, I discussed that about the Lemurians and how their forehead, like, they had a sensitive spot, the pineal, pituitary, and hypothalamus, and how they used that specific, how they concentrated that specifically there to talk to the God within themselves to lead and guide them and lead their energy to more prosperous things that's better for their health. They run across things that's more beneficial to them than to hurt them. And since the elite people who promote all this negative stuff, they know stuff like that, so they trick people to thinking, knowing that they know the power of thought, but an average person doesn't know the power of their thoughts and manifestations and stuff, and why these things keep attracting to them. Probably because they're thinking about them. So it's a bunch of techniques and it's a bunch of things that they did with discipline and consistency that led, great civilizations, and they knew what to drink, what to eat. It's just like the 4 elements. Like, they knew how to breathe because they do meditation. That's air. That's vital life force. And they probably drank plenty of water, which is what I also promote. And then, that pineal gland, that forehead represents that divine fire. And, us as human form, that's earth. And, we're grounded with the earth. So it's like, whenever, all kinds of ancestral knowledge, that would be most beneficial. But today, they try to block that kind of knowledge. They don't teach it, not even in college. They just want your money and stuff. So, but learning that, it attracts stuff to you, like that kind of knowledge that you need freely, instead of trying to rip you off of an education and just want to put you in debt and slavery. And they're afraid of that kind of knowledge because that's the knowledge that they